Darkpress presents Speak of the Devil, a laid-back magical chat with Adam and Darian Darkly.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Darian. Greetings, Darklings. We're the proprietors of Darkpress, Devil's Conjure, Darkly's Curiosities, and the headmasters of Darkly's School of Witchcraft. We want to be sensitive to the fact that some of our listeners may be coming to this podcast completely new to the world of witchcraft. So to begin tonight's episode, which is called WITCHBORN, by the way, let's explain what magic is. Late English occultist Aleister Crowley gave us one of the better working definitions. Magic is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. This idea is at the very core of witchcraft. The magician or witch has the power to assert personal will over circumstance in order to bring about a change in the circumstance.
Crowley differentiated the practice of actual magic from the sleight of hand illusions of popular stage magicians of his era by adding a K to the word magic in his writings. We see no need for this distinction in modern times, so just know that we are always referring to actual magic and magic practitioners, unless we make the clarification stage magic or stage magician.
Shameless plug in 3, 2, 1.
And of course, for a much more detailed explanation of what magic is and is not, check out our downloadable magic courses at Darkly's School of Witchcraft. Our first question tonight is, when did you first know you were a witch? How about you, Darian?
As far back as I can remember, I've known things without knowing how I knew them. When I was a kid, I paired everyone I met with an animal based on my first impression. My parents noticed the people I named animals that I didn't like turned out to be kind of shady. They would introduce people to me and ask what kind of animal someone was, and if I said snake or alligator or shark, they would avoid any business dealings with them. My family started going to church when I was about 8 years old, and as a teen, I thought I was cursed with a witch's eye because the closer I got to God, the more I had visions of the future and knew things about people that I had no way of knowing. I believed it was because my father had been involved in the occult when I was small. I prayed desperately to be delivered from it, but it only grew stronger. And later, this is like my life story, folks. Sorry for rambling on, but I finally accepted that my gift was a good thing, and I left the Baptist church and sought refuge in the charismatic movement for guidance and training in my gifts. I also found I had a propensity for healing. And then some years later, as a minister, I taught on the connections between the Bible and ancient astrology. You literally can't interpret the book of Revelation correctly without a knowledge of Jewish astrology. Churches in the area were so curious that they sent spies to our congregation. I know that sounds crazy, but for real. They sent spies to sit in on the lectures and report back to them. And they determined that I was teaching magic and branded me a witch in a warning email that they sent around to all the community churches. And then a couple of years later, I left Christianity. And I couldn't shake that thought, and I decided maybe my accusers were right, so I'd give witchcraft a go. It was a perfect fit, and here I am.
That's awesome.
How about you?
I first knew I was a witch. Well, really, it was kind of more of a things along like my lifetime at different parts of my life that kind of led up to me more and more and more believing, coming to the point of just really, at one point, just embracing the fact that I had had so many experiences and things that I had to be a witch or definitely be sort of on the outskirts of society in a sense. But I would say probably two of the biggest things that I remember specifically that I saw that happened to me that had me kind of wondering who or what I was or potentially, kind of wondering if I was a witch or something like that. When I was 6 years old, I actually... Basically, we were headed into town. At that point, I lived out in Tennessee and with my family, kind of out in the boonies. But we were heading into town, and usually we wouldn't go into town if it was raining or storming. And so we were about to get in the car, and it started to come like a downpour. And quickly, with I mustered all the might of in my little 6-year-old body that I could, and all the faith that I could in my heart, and basically like prayed that the rain would stop, and within like a few seconds the rain stopped. Later, when I was about 12 years old, I actually had another experience with weather, where I basically got enraged for whatever reason at the storm that was coming down outside, and something in me just told me to almost like taunt the skies, like I was taunting God for whatever reason, obviously showing I was a very rebellious child. But essentially, I basically, was like, is that all you've got? And I'm like, at this point, like standing on my porch, like practically, essentially yelling at the sky, is that all you've got? And every time I repeated that, every time I yelled that louder and louder, the storm got stronger. It started to hail and lightning and thunder, and it was just like the skies were just like crashing, a heavy storm, and that and many other things along the way, that really, things that I've seen, miracles, and especially like, having experiences seeing the dead and otherwise. It just kind of had me wondering, who or what I really was, and came to the understanding that I was a witch. So
Awesome.
that's that.
Our second question is, do you believe some people are born witches? What do you think, Adam?
I believe we all have many purposes and roles and destinies potentially that we're born to achieve or carry out in our lifetimes and our different incarnations. And I also feel like potentially that we've all been a witch, or we've all played just about every role at some point, depending on, what your belief may be in reincarnation and otherwise. But I believe the question of people being anointed sort of to work magic, people being born and destined to be a witch, really I believe that there are people that by nature that they're sort of marked by the devil, that they're sort of, that they're touched, and some people might say that they're in certain cultures, even in Europe, like someone might say that they're fey touched, or, of course, other people might feel like they're cursed. But I definitely feel like there are people that are born and they sort of have a natural propensity for magic, a natural inclination without any sort of knowledge, any training, even, having like almost like Harry Potter experiences where they're making things happen without having any understanding or even connection to magic at all, and just through their sheer will actually making things happen. So I do believe that there are people who innately can do magic without having any knowledge of doing so. So I would definitely agree that I do believe that there are people that are born from magic. I don't feel like it sort of sets them apart in any way, like they're sort of better in any way. I just feel like that it's sort of like everyone else has a role to play, and sometimes in people's certain lifetimes or reincarnations that they just happen to be a witch.
Similarly, I believe all humans are born with certain spiritual gifts and have the equal potential to develop those powers. I feel like some awaken to their personal power, while for whatever reason the gifts of others lie dormant within them and are never realized in this lifetime. I think that witches are among those in possession of their gifts, though we're all in varying stages of our development. Over the years, I've had the privilege of helping many powerfully gifted people identify and develop their divinatory sight, their gifts of healing, and various other innate powers. I think a person's astrology can be an invaluable asset for determining what those gifts are and how to stir them up. And we'll revisit that topic in a future show.
That's awesome. I look forward to that. So a follow-up to question two. Do you think that there's such a line of thinking could lead to a Harry Potter sort of mudblood crisis where people who were born witches see themselves as superior to those who are learned witches? What do you think, Darian?
I believe there's really no difference between the two. The person who is drawn to witchcraft even later in life often realizes upon looking back over their life that they've had magical experiences as far back as they can remember. Therefore, no witch should think themselves better than another. Neither should we consider ourselves superior to the individual who is not a witch. I believe that all humans are one divine being expressing itself through all of us.
I definitely agree there. I also believe in some ways that there's sort of this idea in the world already, even in the magical community abroad, where where there are people that they feel like, that they are superior, like maybe they do have like a pure blood, or they're from like sort of a royal bloodline, sort of something that I've heard over time in the community. But even in the differences between low and high magic, how people feel like if they're working in ceremonial magic or high magic, that they're somehow like above, people who may work, what they may categorize as lower magic, like hoodoo, folk magic, certain folk traditions, and forms of magic like brujeria. So I definitely think that's like a thing that's prevalent in the world, and that definitely is something that comes up. Even people who become like almost like gatekeepers that kind of want to serve to kind of, they want kind of all the knowledge and power for themselves, and they also want to, be like an authority upon what everyone else can learn, or what is true for everyone else. It's really wild.
Yeah, that's those kinds of abuses we're going to talk about next week. Go into that a little bit more. People that have that superiority complex and that sort of thing. Tonight's random ass burning question is, who's your favorite boy band?
One Direction.
One Direction.
That's all you, Darian. That's your favorite. You love Harry Styles.
Well, and then Zayn Malik.
Zayn Malik's a doll, though. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode, Darklings. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Speak to the Devil. You can find us on Instagram to like, follow, and subscribe, and stay up to date with all news, updates, new shows, releases, events, and beyond. If you'd like to learn more about witchcraft, check out Darkly's School of Witchcraft. Coming soon, we'll be releasing and sharing more information on that. Watch for new episodes of Speak of the Devil on YouTube, releasing every Saturday night.
Next week's episode is called Boss Witch. We will be discussing the dynamics of spiritual authority in witchcraft and why it's important to be careful who you grant charge over you as your magical mentor or teacher. Don't miss it.